Hi, we're Believe, a Ted Lasso podcast. We're also Team Binge. I'm Julian. This is
Tom.
We are here to talk about Season 1, Episode 6 of a TV show called Ted Lasso.
It'd be weird if we did a different TV show.
It would be weird, but if you're joining us for the first time on this episode, that's what we're talking about.
I can get how this could be a fan favorite episode. Maybe you just want to go right into this one.
Hey, based on our play numbers, I don't know what people like and what they don't. So this episode is called Two Aces. It is written by a gentleman by the name of Bill Vrubel?
It's gotta be it.
Bill Vrubel. Kind of like Vrabel, the football player. Because both of them start with a W and a V.
Is that a Vikings tight end or something?
No, he was a Patriots linebacker.
Oh.
And now he's like the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, isn't he?
Good for him.
Sorry, wrong sport. We lost half our audience. So this was written by Bill Vrabel. Dang it, I'll get it. Sam Obisanya. Anyways, I looked up his IMDb. He's written on a number of shows. Modern Family, Ted Lasso, Will and Grace, Ugly Betty. I know you loved Ugly Betty back in the day in that ABC lineup.
Big UB fan.
6th episode, themes that we go through. Some fun stuff here is we get some particular player bios.
Yeah.
Through the episode, we go a little bit deeper into some backgrounds. We discuss curses and ghosts. So one of our questions of does Ted believe in ghosts is answered during this episode.
Indeed.
And then we are introduced to a new player on the team, Danny Rojas.
Oh, so great.
I don't want to go into Danny Rojas right now. I'm going to save about 50 minutes in the middle of this to talk about Danny Rojas. I did want to talk about at the top, at the end of last episode, Ted and Michelle have split, or at least during the splitting. Beard comes out, they cheers, they tap beer glasses, they tap the bench, and then they drink. And we talked about that tradition. I looked that tradition up.
Okay.
You cheers for the people in the room, and you tap as a salute to people that aren't there.
I like
So some things said it was about the people that brought the beer there, all the people in commerce that bring it there.
Okay.
Some it was more about relatives that aren't there. So that's where that tradition comes from. You're all very welcome.
Is it pouring one out after you, before you have a drink?
Nope. You tap the bench. There's no pouring out. They're completely different.
Pouring
Tom.
out's more for your
Homies.
For homies. I was gonna say
Your homies.
All right, nailed it.
Is that a term that you don't typically use? So the episode starts with some sad music and Ted sitting lonely on the side of his bed. And to throw back to the next episode, he removes his wedding ring and then he goes to work.
The start of this episode, I was a little afraid that the whole episode was going to be kind of Ted dealing with the sadness of all of it.
Okay.
So I was kind of, obviously he needed to deal with those emotions, but I'm glad in the funny way that they kind of do it to start this scene or this episode. I thought was handled kind of good, and he's still dealing with it throughout the episode, but not just constantly mopey or whatever he kind of started.
Oh, I would argue that he's completely forgotten that he's split with his wife, because at no point does he mention it past taking off his wedding ring, and that's not true. In the first scene, he is at the facility. He's late to the facility. He's clearly, not thinking because he got lost on his way there. Once again, thinking about his wife and him splitting up. He said something like, I'm going to drown myself in my work, but drown is a bad term.
No, it's bury. He want to bury himself in his work.
Oh, bury.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then he says, I'm going to bathe myself in work, which has a more positive connotation.
I love him just rattling off, just stream of consciousness, everything out of his head, what is normally his cool quips in the back of his head that he kind of gives out. He's thinking about it, saying them out loud, putting on his shirt backwards, all this stuff. He's frazzled.
I picture him walking around the town and the sad Charlie Brown music playing as he's just got his head down and he's just slowly shuffling. That's what I picture his day as. And then Nate's talking about being worried about, what was Nate talking about?
Yeah, he was so great. He's just he's deeply worried about aging. When he's talking about his skin. I can't remember what was the preface of it, why he kind of brought it up. But I just love Nate's, he was just Oh, very deeply sad about being aged.
Does he talk about bathing and like taking care of your skin, and that's how they get on?
Oh, it's a bath bomb.
The bath bombs.
Yeah.
He asked Beard what his favorite like flavor bath bomb, and Beard's got an answer, which was great.
Oh, it was so good.
So then they talk about cute. He talks about cute nicknames. They, I don't really remember where they went on that, but he calls someone Sweetie or something, and it runs through the episode.
Yeah, he does a little callback kind of towards the end, but yeah, it was a great little call. I think he does call Nate Sweetie. He's like, thanks, Sweetie.
Okay. So then we find ourselves at the press conference. He gets asked a question about their first win. He gives this quote, and I'll read it verbatim because I'd like to break this down and see if you agree with it. He says, I believe you can outscore your opponent and still lose, and just like you can score less than them and win. Did I say that right? I think I said that right.
You said that right, but it is an odd quote.
Well, I think, are we getting to Ted's whole philosophy that it's not about wins or losses? His point being a team can win, maybe by playing together, being good teammates, but still lose a game by not scoring enough.
Yeah, I think it's another way to say what he said in the previous episode, or the Trent Krim episode, where it's not about the wins and the losses, it's about doing right by these men and helping them, find themselves and lead and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's just another way to say it. Better sports metaphor for it.
Sure. I mean, one of the important things we love about Ted is it's not all about winning. One of the things that I have struggled to make it to Lasso level 7 is not having it all about winning, because in my soul, I'm not necessarily a winner, but I like winning.
Yeah.
So
it's the losing that you hate the most.
He calls on the reporters in the room. He uses all of their names.
Oh, yeah.
He's gotten everyone's name. He calls on Trent Krim. I love this moment. He goes, Trent Krim, the Independent. Trent Krim stands up and says, Trent Krim, the Independent. And then he smiles.
They give a little look.
Yeah. Trent Krim obviously enjoying himself. Him and Ted, their relationship has only grown and flowered, just like Trent Krim's hair.
Yeah, blossomed like his beautiful mane.
Blossomed like his mane. Trent Krim asks him, hey, I'm assuming that you're not going to keep your best player, Jamie, on the bench, because as we know, their first win, he pulled Jamie from the game. And that is when Ted gives his, you know what happens when you assume. And then he does the English version.
Yeah, he's like, you make an arse out of you and me, which is another example of how the languages don't jive in it.
Yeah, and if you listen to it with subtitles, he says jive and innit, INNIT, which is surely an Americanism.
But I do like how we get Jamie kind of sidling in the background, because he hears this. It's not just something he might see on SportsCenter or the equivalent in the UK. Yeah, he's actually in the room, and he kind of sees Ted's reaction to Krim's question.
I think they even cut to him when Ted makes the comment about, I think you can still lose a game and outscore your opponent. Jamie kind of scoffs at that.
Just rolling his eyes.
Yeah, still doesn't understand. And then we have Rebecca and Ted after the press conference. They're walking.
Walk and talk.
Walk and talk. Classic Sorkin here. Sorkin may have written this episode if his name was Bill Vrubel.
Ooh, nice.
I think I think
you got it. Third time's the charm.
So that was like the 5th time. So they are walking.
Third attempt at it.
Sure, third attempt. Rebecca tells Ted that to bench Jamie is a master stroke.
Ooh, I don't think we're allowed to talk about that in the work anymore.
He's offended by the term master stroke. I'm not going to go into that anymore. It's a type of engine. Everyone should look it up. And then she says, are you going to keep on benching Jamie? Because I think I've got this right. Manchester City is saying that they would like Jamie back. Why would Manchester City be able to, please explain to me, our resident soccer expert Tom, why Manchester City, who is not AFC Richmond, why would they get Jamie back?
Yeah, so he's apparently on loan, and I might have said this incorrectly on previous pods and just referred to him as a transfer, because a transfer of a soccer player means they're permanently moving to another team. A loan is them loaning out a player because he's maybe not a big enough star to start for Manchester City, because they've got a lot of good talent in there.
Okay.
So they want to make sure that this still very talented player is getting playing time. So they'll send him to a mid-table team or somebody that's kind of towards the bottom, because they know he's going to be a starter and he's going to constantly still get playing time and not ride the bench.
Do you typically see premier teams that would play each other, loan players to one another. That to me doesn't make sense. Like what you said, loaning them down so they get playing time, that makes sense to me. But these are two preemie teams in the league.
Yep.
I got it. I nailed it.
You nailed it. I don't think it does happen that often. I think a lot more of the loans are between different leagues across Europe. Sometimes what they'll have within these loan contracts is you cannot play against our team. So if Manchester City was playing
and that
Richmond,
would make sense.
Yeah, Jamie would not be able to start in that game. He'd have to be on the bench.
Okay. Can a team, and let me finish this whole question, it's going to be a long one. Can a team who has a player on loan then loan that player and then that team loan that player again? I'll give you an example. I have a house. I have a loan on that house. I've also got like 3 other loans on top of that loan, all of which I hope don't come due. And if I hit it big on some of my bets, I won't have to pay them back.
I don't think you can split apart a player's loan contract, but we'll have to do some.
You can't sublet.
No.
Okay.
They're at least like, they're not 15-year or 30-year loans. Those not be good for soccer players.
This would be interesting in American football if you could loan players out.
I think it'd be brilliant.
Like the Arizona Cardinals could like loan players out to other teams to make them more ineffective. It would be like a sabotage.
Here, take our kicker. He sucks.
So that is player loaning. Thank you for explaining that to me.
You're welcome.
And I am going to be able to talk. One of the jokes Ted says is they're going to take his house.
The setup is great because they're doing the walk and talk. She says he's on loan. He stops, gets right in front of him. He's like, they're going to take his house?
They're going to take his house, which is such a great reaction, such a great line. And then he says, I want my plan to work. I plan on having my plan to work. He says plan like 30 times, and he gets to a point where plan has lost its meaning. Have you ever used a word so many times? Can you relate to this? Where you
100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. I've done this before. You haven't?
No, this was an idea that is foreign to me. All of my words that I say are very deliberate and precise, and I don't often repeat myself or say the same thing. Certainly, I don't repeat myself.
Yeah, and I think they kind of move from this sequence to then Ted seeing, or going into the office, and Ted, Nate, and Beard kind of talking. And Beard says specifically what it is, which is it semantic satiation? Or satiation?
Semantic satiation.
Okay, give us a definition. I know you got it pulled up.
Okay, so I did a deep dive on this, and by that, I spent 45 minutes on the Google machine, as you would call it. Semantic satiation. Come on.
Wait, satiation?
Satiation.
Satiation. No, I lost it. I don't know what it means anymore.
Is a psychological phenomenon in which repetition causes a word or phrase to temporarily lose meaning for the listener, who then perceives the speech as repeated, meaningless sounds.
Yeah. Oh, I've 100% had this before.
Okay.
I think they do plan. They do aces later. It's a very weird sensation. It's something you use all the time. I get it sometimes with spelling a word. I'll be like, I don't know how to spell this, and it's the most basic and simple of words.
Okay.
Enough. I'll keep trying to use F's. I'm like, why am I trying to do this?
I could see how this would be something under the influence of a substance.
No, not at all. You have to be very clear-minded. Your mind is so focused, you can't even make sense of it anymore.
That's how I live my life. And then they start talking about a new player. Ted asks, hey, I heard there's a new player coming in from Mexico. And they say his name is Danny Rojas.
Danny Rojas!
Not yet.
Sorry.
We're going to have the Danny Rojas conversation. I'm so excited. And then Beard tells Ted, I believe, that Jamie is now claiming that he is too hurt to practice. And so Ted goes into the locker room. Jamie is in civilian clothes, essentially. Everyone else is dressed for practice. And Ted walks up to him and he starts asking him about it. And he says, I understand you're hurt. If you're hurt, you don't have to play. That's fine. But Ted does not stop at that. He goes into, but we all know it's not that. We all know you're not hurt.
But before he does that, though, it gets set up by him just kind of saying that. I don't think he doesn't confront him quite yet.
Okay.
He just kind of he wants to get a pulse for Jamie. He wants to see how Jamie's going to react and, talking about practice. That's when Ted starts walking away, seemingly going back to the office, and then Jamie's got to throw this line right back at him.
What does he say?
And he says, he's like, relax, Ted, it's just practice.
He doesn't call him coach. He doesn't call him manager, gaffer. He calls him Ted. Relax, it's just practice.
But I love the cinematography in this too. I think there's a couple points in this scene where I want to kind of call out, but I love where Ted is walking away. He's right at that office door, and he says that Jamie says this line, and Ted just stops in his tracks. Mm-hmm. And the camera's right behind, and you see the back of Ted, you see the whole locker room, and everything goes quiet.
Yeah.
And then as Ted kind of turns around and sees that he's going to confront him, players start to kind of slowly dissipate, and boom, it is now Jamie and Ted to have this very, very interesting exchange back and forth. So,
right.
Hit it.
And so I think there's someone like sitting next to Jamie who like gets up and is like, very interested in his phone all of a sudden. And then Ted goes into, hey, if you're hurt, you're hurt, but it isn't about that. We're talking about practice. Mm. And he has this interesting rant about practice, which I had to look up. And I found out that Jason Sudeikis is essentially taking a Alvin Iverson rant. Alvin Iverson. Alvin.
No.
Alan.
No, yes, it's Alan.
What is wrong? Mr. Iverson, as I typically would call him. Mr. Iverson. Alan Iverson.
Yes.
A very great basketball player.
Well.
Played for I think
first time he was a player. He's a baller.
Played for the 76ers, the Philadelphia 76ers. In 2002, he was having a tiff with his coach, and he's in a press conference, and he goes on a rant where he says, we're talking about practice, and he says practice 22 times. Mm. And the debate is whether or not he was intoxicated when he did the press conference. Mm-hmm. 2 things you should not do while intoxicated. 3 things you should not do while intoxicated. 1, drive. You're an idiot if you did it. You should not do that. 2 is press conference. 3 is podcast. Those are the 3 major things you should not do while drinking. His coach, I'll wrap it up with this.
Okay, you're good.
Iverson's coach, after hearing this rant, because there was an issue with Iverson not going to practice, his coach says, well, if he had gone to practice as many times as he said the word practice in that rant, we probably would have been a better team, or something along those lines, which is just great. And so I guess Jason Sudeikis is a big Allen Iverson fan, and he kind of did this as an homage.
Gotcha.
It almost feels like Ted is glitching a bit in the scene because he says practice so much.
I I don't follow a whole lot of the basketball, as we called it last time.
Sure, basketball.
That's what we call it in the States. I don't follow a whole lot of it. I do remember it after you said that, but I was very weirded out by this sequence. Like when he first gets into it and talks about practice and talks about, it's not the game where you put all your time, it's about practice. I'm like, oh, he's going to come with something very poignant, but he just drones on and just practice. So obviously playing an homage to this, but it did to, I would imagine, the general audience would seem super weird and out of place.
So my thought with that is that we are seeing Ted with the stress of him and his wife separating, mm-hmm. the stress of Jamie just not getting it, like mm-hmm. Jamie being a complete tool. I think it's like him fraying a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's where you see like typically happy Ted, positive Ted, like start to kind of fray. You almost saw it in the last episode right before his kid comes in where Jamie kind of tells him off. You can see him almost start to mm-hmm. go into that mode. So I think there is a gear to Ted that we have not seen that you see a little bit in that. And that's how I took it, at least.
No, I agree. And I think Ted is what you've seen. It's very difficult to get him to that level.
Right.
And there are very few things that have. And so far what we've seen have all been Jamie.
Right.
I do want to bring up one other thing, talking about the cinematography, which I thought was just really cool and fantastic, where it showed a very odd camera angle where it tilts the whole camera. So it then... Because Ted is standing up, you have Jamie sitting down. It tilts the camera angle, so when you're looking at it, Ted and Jamie's eyes are level and kind of meeting, which I thought was a very interesting thing. So it kind of says that these guys are on the same level, but clearly Ted is talking down to him and putting Jamie in his place. And I thought it was just a really cool moment, and I don't think the show has done a lot of that in terms of interesting kind of ideas and kind of thoughts, just as opposed to just blasting you with what's on the screen. Kind of tilting it, seeing the background, seeing everything else just kind of distorted, really put those kind of two together, and I really, really like that kind of stuff.
Sure. Do you think this was shot by Deakins?
No.
Because there were cuts in it instead of it being a one-shot,
It wasn't a
2.5 hour
Yeah.
movie about World War One,
It wasn't a winner. Is that the
which
next-
we can tie into later on in this
Oh,
episode.
we could.
Hey man, I'm good at this. And then Ted tells Jamie after Jamie gets on him about practice, which he says a lot of times. He tells Jamie, "Hey, go set up the cones. Do me a
great.
favor," which is such a great moment. And then Jamie tells his cronies, Colin and Isaac, "Hey, go set up the cones." They rebuff him.
I love it immediately. He's like,
Right.
no, man, you set up the cones.
He calls him, and Colin calls him a second teamer, which is
Yeah.
great. And that brings in our boy, Roy Kent, who sits down next to Jamie and says, "That's gotta sting. Cheers!"
Cheers.
And then gets up and goes.
Stands up, go.
Oh, it's so great. Roy is enjoying Jamie's humiliation way too much.
As does Nate here.
As does Nate. So we're back in the office, and Nate is in that big glass window, just like eating up Jamie's demise. And then Nate expresses how happy he is, and he's laughing.
Wait. Before you get into this, I want you to take a second. I want you to look at this German word you're about to say, and I want you to think about it before you say it.
Listen, I've got the German words.
Okay.
No issue. Ted says this is a no shot. I messed up the no. No Schadenfreude.
Okay.
No Schadenfreude zone. And then Beard goes, Nein Schadenfreude. All right, like 1% of our audience is from Germany. That 1% I'd like to hear from you. Please fix my pronunciation.
So great.
I had to look up what Schadenfreude It is a term that we should all use more. It is the enjoyment obtained from the troubles of others.
I'm having a Schadenfreude right now.
You're laughing at my troubles. I don't like it.
This is so meta.
Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude. You know what's funny is I spelled it 3 different ways on the outline. Woo. All right.
All right, and that, let's take it to commercial.
Oh, please.
Ugh.
All right. We got past Schadenfreude.
Why are you still trying to...
I'm going to get it, man. I'll get there. Then we're introduced to the man, the myth, the legend, Danny Rojas.
Yes.
Danny Rojas, new player from Mexico. This guy comes in just batting 1,000.
Comes in hot.
It's a baseball term. In football, you would call it he's kicking 1,000. What's a term in football that you would... he's scoring all the goals.
He's out of touch.
No, that's out of bounds.
Well, I was going to say in touch. Instead of
he's-
being out of bounds, he's inbounds.
Okay, yeah.
I like yours better. Kicking 1,000.
No. Kicking all the goals, kicking 1,000. Danny Rojas, played by a gentleman, Cristo Fernandez. You know what? Let's have you pronounce the hard things for now on.
Cristo Fernandez is not a difficult name.
Well, it is for some of us.
All right, if there's anything that is like semi-weird spelled on this outline, I will read it.
Thank you. So, Danny Rojas, football is life.
Yeah, love it.
Football is life. He comes running in. He's just a ball of energy. He says hello to the coaches, which is just great.
I love his like chanting of himself too, like
He's chanting his name.
as opposed to Jamie, where he's pointing to me and just a complete jerk for doing that, just
Right.
self-obsessed. You get Danny Rojas is coming out. It's like Danny Rojas, Danny Rojas.
Yeah.
He's just screaming it. Oh, he's happy. I love it.
Ted says something to him like, hey, go take the striker position, which I'm assuming is a position in soccer.
It's a forward.
Okay. He says, go take the striker position. And Danny says something like, just like in Guadalajara, you say, I do. Football is life. And then he just takes off. He's just like the exact opposite of Jamie in terms of attitude.
Love it.
And then he runs up. He's like high-fiving the team. He goes to high-five Jamie. Jamie reacts like he's going to punch him. And then Jamie has this line, which I didn't catch until, once again, I watched it for like the 3rd or 4th time.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie says as Danny goes by, Chipper D-heads, an insult, Chipper D-heads never back it up on the field. These, happy players, guys with good attitudes, never good on the field.
Yep.
And then we watch Danny Rojas just tear it up.
Yeah. He's got some moves, man. That actor can ball.
Wait for it. Tom, as our resident football expert, what did you think about Danny Rojas's soccer playing skills, his football playing skills?
Dude, that guy can ball. That kid's got some moves. He's a good soccer player.
Yeah, you wonder if he played in his former life as a professional athlete.
Do you have something that says he actually played?
Nope.
No.
I wish I did. It would have made that transition better. Jamie's reaction to Danny's goal is disappointment. And Roy sidles up to him once again. I love Roy. He goes,
It's like, I can't tell, but it seems like he's very good. Cheers again.
Cheers again. I love it. I love it. That's gotta sting.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers.
It's a classic insult.
Roy's rubbing it in his face, which is great. So we're a little bit excited now. We've got some joy on the team.
New blood.
You know, Jamie is claiming to be injured, but now we've got Danny Rojas. Oh, and the actor whose name
It's Cristo Fernandez.
Yeah, that's I looked him up on IMDb, and it looks like this is like his first big acting role.
Okay. That's why I'm so excited.
Everything else was shorts, but he's doing a fabulous job. And like,
can we discuss his hair real quickly?
It's phenomenal.
It's pretty phenomenal, right? It's like Trent Krim level.
Sure. Oh, Trent Krim. Oh, yeah, they're on par. 100%.
Like if those hairs fought,
yeah,
whose hair would win?
I've already ordered the Danny Rojas wig on Amazon.
Oh, have you?
It will be arriving soon. I will be wearing it on the next podcast. Those people that are listening won't be able to see it, but those people that watch us on YouTube, you're probably still not going to see it. But that doesn't matter. So then we have Keely, Rebecca, and Higgins in Rebecca's office. Keely shows up. She's got a binder in which she's taken notes on the players' backgrounds. And so she starts talking through some of the players' backgrounds. Someone was raised by wolves. Someone's left-handed. I don't know.
Two left hands.
Yeah, 2 left hands.
Somebody was left-handed. What a crazy notion.
Are you left-handed?
No.
I'm not left-handed. It's crazy in this room.
It is.
It would be an oddity. So Rebecca makes some joke about you couldn't find a binder without a unicorn on it.
Oh.
And I think that's when Keely tells her to F off.
She's like F off?
As an expression. And Higgins is like taken aback. But Rebecca, of course, liking Keely, does not react in a negative way. And Higgins is like, I was wondering what it would be like if I had told you to F off. And they all start laughing. And then Rebecca deadpans. She does a great job. She deadpans and goes, we're done, Higgins.
Yeah, that is all.
And then dismisses him. So Higgins leaves. And then Keely breaks the news. She doesn't think she's breaking the news, but she ends up breaking the news about Rupert Mannion's new girlfriend, Bex, who was the same girl that Jamie brought to the gala. He went home with her, or at least is now dating her. They both share the same name, Rebecca, and Bex is short for Rebecca. So the press is calling them...
New Rebecca.
No.
Oh, she thinks it's new Rebecca.
She thinks it's new Rebecca.
She hopes it's new Rebecca.
Right. She hopes
it's Rebecca.
And old Rebecca.
Old Rebecca.
Old Rebecca. Yeah,
old
Keely
Rebecca.
doesn't want to tell
She
her.
has to then shout it to her.
I do appreciate that Keely's like, do you want me to pretend like that girl wasn't like super fit?
Incredibly fit,
Incredibly fit?
Yeah, that hideous cow whose name is Bex.
And she's, I would like you to. That hideous cow. I did not think this was a huge insult, but I am not a woman in this situation. So being called old Rebecca, if I was called like old Julian... Yeah, I guess maybe in that context.
I don't think we want to touch that.
No?
No.
Okay. Well, I will go on record and saying it is offensive. It's a terrible thing, and
we'll cut to make it that.
I'm glad she's offended.
No, I think it's a very fair thing to be offended by when you're being, because she's obviously already having problems dealing with this, and now being thrown under the bus by him going and getting with another younger girl.
Right. I guess. Okay. I don't want to offend anyone. Obviously. My whole goal here is to never offend anyone. I thought it was going to be a worse insult. Or I thought it was going to be like a worse nickname.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Well, sometimes it's the easiest, like the smallest of slights that are the biggest. I don't know. I read it in a book once.
Okay. Well, I'm going to write it down.
We'll cut all that.
Nope, we're not. Jamie's out there picking up the cones. This is a great scene. Probably my favorite scene in the episode. Jamie's picking up the cones after training. There's some Friday Night Lights music. And what I mean by that is if you've ever seen the TV show or the movie, Friday Night Lights, there's a band called Explosions in the Sky. and they do this like real like emotional and moody like guitar riff, no lyrics, like ambient sound.
Okay.
And it like plays while Jamie is like sadly picking up cones, and then he takes this shot and he hits the crossbar.
Yep.
Which you're not supposed to do in soccer, correct? In soccer, you're supposed to put the football ball in the football net.
It's actually a very common training ground kind of game that guys will play.
Oh, okay.
So generally they'll play it from like, goalies will do it from like almost the entire pitch. Sometimes it's not the entire pitch, but like they'll go
That's
from
a really long
halfway.
kick.
Some of these goalies can crush the ball, but usually they'll do it from like halfway, and they'll try to see like at the end of practice who can hit the crossbar, kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I think it is kind of a fun striker game that they'll play where they get on the top of the 18 and they try to hit a bar or call out their shot and hit a crossbar.
So what's funny is Danny Rojas walks in on this. He watches him hit the crossbar, and Danny, being a nice guy, is like, "Oh, it's amazing you can do that." He's like not surprised by Jamie's skill, but he's showing some expression of amazement that Jamie can hit the crossbar. He takes it as a friendly competition.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
then Danny Rojas kicks one, and he hits the crossbar. And he's like,
1 for 1, your turn, amigo.
"Your turn, amigo," which is great. So then they have the crossbar competition. It's a fun little setup where
Back and forth.
Jamie is taking it serious and a little bit grumpy, and then Danny is just having fun. He's so happy through the whole thing. And then in the end, Jamie misses. Danny hits it, and Danny, being a gracious winner, says, "I got lucky.
Yep.
Next time tomorrow, Jamie Tart, football is life," and runs off. And he's just so great. Like, his happiness is infectious. And I'm pretty sure he chants his name as he runs through the field, because who is in the stands but
good old Lasso and Beard.
Lasso and Beard watching from the stands. And Ted is amazed that they have now 2 star soccer players.
Two aces.
And that leads us to the episode name, which is
3 aces. 3 jacks.
Oh,
5 queens.
it's really tough setting someone up. I've like gave you a solid cross, and you, instead of scoring the goalie, you did the extra pass.
I shrewded it.
You shrewded it.
Now, 2 aces. Yeah, they're discussing the amazingness of having now Rojas and Tart together.
And Ted's line about how lucky they are is, it's like
they fell into a pool of cash and Sour Patch Kids.
that's where Ted Lasso's head is. Cash and Sour Patch Kids.
You a fan of Sour Patch Kids?
I am, but at this age, I cannot eat many of them because 1, my teeth will hurt. 2, the layer of my tongue like falls off, and 3, I try not to eat so much sugar.
Good on you. Yeah, they were definitely one of those things where I could take a whole like theater-sized thing when I saw a movie. But yeah, now just a couple to get my teeth wet.
Yeah, that's the phrase. Teeth wet. You did it. Schadenfreudenberg. So then aces becomes a word that they keep saying.
Wait, aces?
Aces.
Aces. Aces?
There's a moment, because Beard gets caught up in it too. He
Aces?
gets caught up in the loop. He removes his glasses for dramatic effect,
Aces.
but his strap that holds his glasses in place stays on the back of his head, which to me makes that strap meaningless. You know the strap that keeps so you can wear your glasses like a necklace?
Yeah, I guess I
when
didn't
he
notice.
pulls his off, it stays on the back. Yeah, so when he takes his glasses off, there's still a strap on the back of his head. It just hangs there. Rewatch it, you'll notice it.
Interesting.
So then he starts talking about, he's saying aces, and he says something.
Yeah, he's still saying aces. He's like, aces? ISIS? Aces?
He's like, you said ISIS.
Well, yeah, I did say ISIS. Didn't mean to say ISIS. Didn't want to say it. Aces? Well, if you clone the lead singer or lead guitarist of Kiss, then you'd have 2 Freelys. Which is, I thought was great, Beard's reaction for 2 Freelys. Did you understand that one?
Nope, I don't know any of the members of Kiss.
So lead guitarist is Ace Frehley. That is his name. So Ted is trying to set him up for the joke of saying, you have 2 aces.
Right.
To try to like make meaning of that word again.
Sure.
And of course Beard says 2 Freelys.
It's kind of like when they do the other one and he's trying to get him to say roots, and he has him say a different book title.
Yes.
I got
yes,
it.
yes.
Very good callback. So then we have Roy Kent on the treadmill, and he is joined by
Keeley, and it was a very interesting setup where it starts at their feet and you just see a guy on a treadmill
Sure.
and then a pair of high heels pop on the treadmill, and I'm like, what is going on here? At first I thought it was Rebecca. I'm
Okay.
like, what is she doing there? But then, lo and behold, it's Keeley.
And what is Roy reading?
Oh, Roy is reading A Wrinkle in Time.
A Wrinkle in Time.
Now, I thought he finished The Wrinkle in Time with the lovely granddaughter, or not granddaughter, but niece.
No, when he was with Phoebe, he just gets to a point
Okay,
where
just
the
that
quote,
very dramatic quote
yeah.
they wanted to use for this. Okay, so he's
Yeah.
almost done with it, seemingly.
So Keely has showed up because she's doing all the players' bios
Mm-hmm.
because she is helping with marketing, and she explains to Roy that there's a player on the team that grew up in South London, was sent to Sunderland when he was a kid.
Sunderland.
Sunderland?
So it sounds weird if you say it Sunderland.
What did I say?
You said Sunderland.
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 That's how it's spelled, Sunderland.
It's like Derby. Or
I will
Derby.
use its Christian name, Sunderland. So then she's talking about Roy, of course. What is Sunderland, Tom? Who is Sunderland? Are they a team?
Yeah, Sunderland is another. They're kind of one of those teams. I think they've been in the Premier League for a while, but I think they have been relegated. They've played in the Tier 2 before. They're kind of one of those teams that bounces back and forth.
Okay, and she says South London, like South London is a bad place to be. I'm assuming that it's maybe a rougher part of London.
Yeah, I just know Chelsea, the team that I follow, they're from North London, but where everybody else is, with the parts of town in London, I'm not going to speak to that. I'll let our British audience tell us more.
Sure. Send us an email at teambingepodcast@gmail.com.
Nailed it.
We love to hear from you. I've appreciated everyone's email so far, other than the ones asking for money. So
Or nudes.
she brings up something. Those I'm actually fine with. So she brings up that Roy at one point sang a song at a charity dinner called "Winner Winner," a football dinner, and he says that was for world hunger, and her response is, "I believe it was the cure."
Yes.
It's just a really good back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah.
She, I guess, makes the comment up at the beginning. She's like, "I'm pretending like we're out on a walk," which
Yeah.
I thought he would have bitten on because I feel like he is more into her than she has shown him.
I don't know. They definitely have a Sam and Diane kind of thing where they don't reciprocate at the same time. Like one seems to be pushing the envelope and the other one is not.
Sure, but their
But
names
that's just all part of their
names are Roy and Keeley, so I don't know why you keep calling them Sam and Diane.
I don't know. It's one of those famous. What is it? Cheers. Cheers reference.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, babe.
All right, so then we have Danny Rojas running around on the field, doing a cone drill, just shouting his name, and all of a sudden he injures himself.
Wow.
He falls over.
This was not a fake
This is
injury.
a great sound effects
Yeah.
you're doing. I can't believe you got the soundboard in here to do all these. So then he is in the training room, or he's in the locker room, and they're like stretching his leg out, and he says, "Something tripped me. Something not there." And then he crosses himself. And this is a great moment because it's Ted, Beard, Danny Rojas, Roy Kent, and then Higgins is in there as well as Nate.
Mm-hmm.
And Nate says, "This is all my fault. All my."
Okay, wait, take two. Try it again. Nate
says, "This is all my fault."
Did you want me to finish the quote?
Sure.
Also, then Nate says, I think this
We
is all
can
my
start
fault.
this over.
Okay.
And so Nate says, "This is all my fault."
I saw Danny going into the treatment room and didn't say anything. And then Higgins just gets so upset, like visibly in the background.
Right, and
You're
Roy
like,
does too.
What's going on? And then everybody's kind of reacting. And then Roy even says, like,
Everyone reacts like Danny is doomed.
yeah,
And Ted and Beard don't understand. And so Ted is outraged.
just an outburst. He's
Right.
like, if somebody doesn't tell me what's going on right now, I'm going to throw a temper tantrum.
Just like my child does.
Yeah.
And he's like, my child just says a bunch of nonsense words. Like poo-poo and this and that. And then he goes, "Am I missing any?" And Beard's like, "Pee-pee fingers."
Baby fingers.
Pee-pee fingers. So Beard and Lasso don't know what's going on. See, I've watched these episodes before. So, like, I know what's happening in the room. You did not.
No.
Were you just like, what are they talking about?
Oh, I was 100% in Ted and Beard's shoes. I'm like, what is going on? What are they talking about? Although you have kind of spoiler alerted the idea of there being ghosts in one of the early episodes where we said that this place used to be a hospital.
I have never apologized for anything in my life, and I'm not going to start now. So we find out that the treatment room is cursed. And Ted goes, "How come we weren't told. And Sam Obisanya is so great in this episode. He doesn't come in until this moment, but he's just got some great moments. He says, well, I think it has a lot to do with grown men being embarrassed to admit they believe in all this hoodoo, voodoo, juju business.
Yep.
So good. And then Roy's like, I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
And Ted's like, great, you and I are going to go into that treatment room. Roy's like,
oh, I'm not going in that room.
I'm not going in there.
It's like, why aren't you going in there? It's like, no, I'm not going in.
And Ted's like, I don't understand. Danny was a healthy, joyous, raven-haired golden retriever, which leads to a conversation once again from Sam coming in hot.
Yeah, then Sam is like, is it true in America that so many beautiful dogs and pounds just get put down for no good reason? And then Ted's like, well, yeah, that's true, but it's something to do with a lot of female singers. Let's try it again. Ted's like, that's true. That's a tough one. You do it.
All right, but I'm leaving all this in.
No, you're not leaving all this in.
Oh, come on. All right. Darn you. Ted says that's true, but it's something that a lot of singers... Dang it. Ted says that's true, but it's something a lot of female singer-songwriters are trying to change, which is a reference to Sarah McLachlan and her Arms of the Angel commercials with all those
fun ending that one.
Yeah. I'm not going to edit it. I'll just bleep you. All right. So the team gathers at the pub.
I'm having so much fun tonight.
Yeah, that's good. That's what we're here for. The team gathers at the pub. The pub is called the Crown and Anchor. I didn't know you knew that, but I looked it up.
I didn't know it.
They've all gathered because they are there to solve the curse.
Why did they have to go there?
I think they just wanted to go there
Scene
and
change.
I mean, gather the whole team. They're all in civilian clothes. We get the publican up there. She's great. Mm-hmm. We get Paul, Baz, and the other one. I don't remember the third one's name. So Ted goes into, he's talking about curses, and he's like, hey, other curses have been lifted. We can lift this one, the Red Sox, the something...
Cubs.
The White Sox?
No, the Cubs.
Oh, the Cubs.
The Red Sox and the Cubs.
Okay. And then he says, Martin Scorsese's Oscar, finally got his Oscar win. They debate the movies. What's your favorite, Martin? I'll list the ones they say in the show, and then you can tell me while you're thinking about your favorite Martin Scorsese. They argue whether or not it's... Because he wins for The Departed. Mm-hmm. They say, hey, that's not his best work. Someone throws out Color of Money, Goodfellas, Mean Streets, Cape Fear.
Cape Fear was Beard, which I was like, Cape Fear.
Oh, that's right. He was like, Cape Fear. The way he says something, the way he delivers those lines. I have actually not seen several of the movies. I've seen The Departed. I've seen Goodfellas. And what's your favorite?
My favorite is not on that list because I think some of them are a little bit older and not necessarily dated. Like Goodfellas is a fantastic classic movie, but my favorite would be Gangs of New York. I love Bill the Butcher. I love Leo DiCaprio in that movie. I think it's just such a cool, stylized period piece.
I don't think I ever realized that was a Scorsese film.
Yeah.
I really like Goodfellas. I really like Departed. I would not be able to do them on a podcast because of the language barrier. But
Boston accents?
Yes, the Boston accents. The shoid. Anyways, so the publican explains that at one point, and they give her the floor, which is great. Yeah. And it kind of goes between her and Higgins. They seamlessly tell this story about how there were these posters that said, "Are you a fast, fit fan of football?" Which is a recruiting poster.
Nailed that one.
I did. Ted says great alliteration.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ted. I'll take that compliment. It's dated November 18, 1914, which is during World War I, which Britain was, of course, involved in. They put these posters up. These young, fit fans of football showed up at the stadium thinking they were going to get to try out for the team. Instead, there were a bunch of recruiters. 400 lads enlisted, and very few came home. And then they say something like, and after they enlisted, where did they get their physicals? And someone's like, our treatment room. Oh, no.
And everybody freaks out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, no, in the treatment room. Ted has to come in. He's like, no, it wasn't in the treatment room. All right, it was in the treatment room. I just need you guys to stop and think about it for a second.
He's like, I'm not sure why I lied there. But, yeah, so that's why their treatment room is haunted.
But I love the line when I think they said like 400, and then I don't know which player it is.
I think Isaac in the back goes something like, "Wait, so you're saying there's 400 ghosts?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Is it Colin?" He's like,
"Yeah,
that's too many ghosts. We can't fight all of them."
Yeah, Colin says there's too many ghosts, and then the French player, I don't know his name, goes, "We can't fight all of them."
It was just so good. I loved it.
Very good. And so Ted decides that in order to get rid of the ghosts, that they all need to gather, and since they made the ultimate sacrifice, they all need to sacrifice something. A lot of the players don't want to do it, but who comes in?
Boom. The first domino, Roy. He stands up and screams at everybody and tells them, "Hey, we're doing this."
That's your captain talking. So...
Do you find it odd that they didn't think to call the Ghostbusters first?
I don't think the Ghostbusters could have helped them in this situation because it's not like a physical ghost.
Yeah,
you know?
well, and they're based out of New York. I don't know what their expansions
it's probably
are.
super difficult to get a flight to London or
as we've discussed, you can't get it from
Virginia.
Kansas City. Yeah, yep, okay.
So then we find Keely and Jamie. They are outside, I'm assuming Keely's house.
They are. They say it.
And Jamie's like, "Why do we got to meet out here? We should go inside." She says, "If we go inside, we're probably going to have relations and we're broken up." She says, "I've had 3 glasses of wine. It's like Pavlovian." And he says, Jamie, being dumb as a rock sometimes.
Yeah, doesn't get the Pavlov. He's like,
No.
Pavlovian, is that the wine?
Is that the wine? And then he's like, "Can we at least get in the car?" And she's like, "No, if we get in the car, we'll shag there too." And he's like, "The car is also Pavlovian." Just a great moment from Jamie. We don't have to go in what Pavlovian means. All of you know already. Then Jamie goes into and he's complaining about Ted and how Ted is trying to get them to join in this ritual to get rid of ghosts, and he thinks it's all garbage. What I did think was interesting is he talks about himself a little bit, and he says, you know, if I did what everyone else did, would a kid that grew up in a council estate in North Manchester that made it to the Premier League, if I did what everyone else did, would I have made it here? I had to look up because I was like, I don't know what council estates means. And so what I had to look it up is council estates in Britain are essentially government housing, like poor government housing. So what we're finding out is that Jamie grew up, which is surprising, just I guess my assumptions about him.
Yeah.
But he grew up in apparently a poor part of town, and now he's in the Premier League. So,
do you think that is this really the first time that we've seen Jamie? I mean, he's obviously opening up to Keely, but like, is this the first time we get any sort of backstory on Jamie? Because all we've normally known from this point is that he's a star soccer player and he's a jerk. Like, that's about it. Like, this is the first time we actually know, like, he's a jerk for reasons, which, I mean, we'll get into. I don't think they're warranted when he kind of comes in at the end, which we'll kind of talk to when we get to that scene. But I thought it was interesting to be this late in it, to just start finally getting a touch of what where he's coming from.
Yeah, I don't think we learn anything else about his backstory until this moment. Okay. And you're right, I don't think it justifies his actions, but obviously it gives you a fuller picture of who he is. Keely says something like, "Hey, it's, you know, I know you're a battler." Meaning you grew up and you made it this far on your own, and she gives him some great advice, which is stop battling the people that are trying to help you. Yeah, which is Ted, and I think that is an important thing. Sometimes you got to get out of your own way. And then we have a great scene. Once again, Sam Obisanya, love this. He shows up in Rebecca's office. She's just got this open door policy. Anyone's allowed to walk in there. He introduces himself.
Does she have an open door policy?
I don't know. It seems like it based on Keely, Sam, everyone else walking into our office. But Sam is great. He introduces himself. He's like, "Hey, I'm Sam Obisanya. I'm on the team." She's like, "Sam, I know who you are." And so he talks to her about joining the team down in order to lift the curse. He makes some comment about, you know, everyone always assumes the Nigerian knows what's going on. Yeah. And he's like, "I actually do love this stuff, but it's mainly for my love of Harry Potter." Which he then talks about the author of Harry Potter.
Yeah, then J.K. Rowling, and how, you know, he appreciates the idea of her being like, she's richer than the Queen, makes that note, and then Rebecca says, "Yeah, I did know that." But he mentioned specifically that he likes the idea of somebody being rich because of what they gave to the world, and not just because of their family. Which I thought was really cool insight and stuff from his perspective, coming from Nigeria. You imagine, you know, it's an impoverished country. He's probably seen it. Has challenges, obviously.
Sure. And Sam is great in this scene. at first when he comes in, I missed this part. At first when he comes in, he says, he asks her if she has anything to do that evening. And she assumes he's asking her out on a date.
That's clever.
And he says, no, I don't mean this in a romantic way. And he says, you are so lovely that you must get romantic invitations all the time. Very smooth by Sam.
Well, I also think it's very clever, too, because he starts it off by, like, are you free tonight kind of a thing. So she's, like, then prefacing by saying, like, I am free tonight. Now he knows she can't give her the excuse, I've got to do this benefit or something.
I don't think Sam's that devious.
I think we just came up with that, but
I did not come up with it. You came up with it, which is good. It's very good. I'm with you on your theory. I just think it's wrong, and I disagree with you. So then, and the reason he's inviting her down is Ted says, hey, in order for this to work, the whole team's got to be there. Mm-hmm. Is there a romantic relationship developing between Sam and Rebecca in your mind? You keyed in on Keeley and Lasso slowly falling in love. I'll give you that. From episode 1, you figured that piece out. What do you think about Sam and Rebecca?
I feel like you're trying to throw these things like to get me off the scent, because I feel like I got Roy and Keeley pretty quickly.
Sure.
So, no, this is not Sam and Rebecca is not a Sam and Diane situation.
Oh, incredible work. Incredible work. So then Ted and the team are all in the treatment room. Ooh. He starts talking, and Rebecca shows up, which is great. The whole team is there.
She sidles on in.
Ted starts off, and one of our big questions from the pilot episode where Ted says he believes in ghosts, but more importantly, he hopes they believe in himself. Mm-hmm. Our question was, does Ted believe in ghosts? He opens this meeting with...
Well, I'm not sure what you're cueing me for.
I'm cueing you to say that Ted says he is a believer. He believes in ghosts.
He says something else before he gets to aliens, but he's like, I believe in ghosts, I believe in aliens, but I do think this is interesting because this gives us a brand new meaning to believe. And like the name of our podcast, is it more than just believing in yourself? Is it Ted believes in
Oh, this is a more spiritual thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there more?
This is some ancient aliens type stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to have the debate with the other podcast called Believe, a Ted Lasso podcast.
Oh, we can take those guys. We've already trademarked it.
No.
We're coming for you.
They seem like nice guys. So...
It's a guy and a girl.
One of the lines that is... Okay. One of the lines that I really enjoy is Ted says, nothing lasts forever, and he says, with the exception of the wit and wisdom of Calvin and Hobbes.
And when I heard this, I'm like, man, this is going to be exciting for Mr. Julian, because I know he's a big Calvin and Hobbes fan. Has a tattooed on his bum.
I love Calvin and Hobbes. Yes, I do. That's the tattoo I was talking about getting on its twin body part. The Calvin and Hobbes comic is incredible. I love it. Unfortunately, one of my children read it at a young age, and he has taken on the mentality of Calvin, the cynical, negative Calvin. Or maybe he's just gotten it from his dad. Who knows?
There's no way of knowing.
There's no way of knowing. So then we have this group scene where everyone is putting their items in to the fire pot in order to sacrifice it for the ghosts. We learn some about Roy. Roy was 9 when he was scouted for Sunderland.
Very good.
And so his thing is a blanket. The blanket reminds him of home. His granddad gave it to him when he left. But before he came back, his grandfather had died. Which I was surprised that... So they're recruiting kids at 9, and these kids are going to, like, soccer camp?
They do... kind of what I mentioned one of the earlier pods. They have, like, academies. So Sunderland will have an academy that's just, like... It's still youth soccer. The kids are still playing for fun and all this stuff. But they're kind of a part of the main... club, so the club can like see how these kids are developing, and if they see a lot of young talent, they'll bring them up, because there's guys that are playing in that league that are interesting play. There are guys that are playing in that league that are incredibly young.
Okay, so great moment. At one point, he calls the blanket Blanky.
Yeah, right before he's getting ready to finally put it into the fire pit, if you will, he calls it Blanky, and then I think it's...
Isaac's like, did you just say Blanky?
He's like, no, I said blanket, conversation over, Sam, go.
Sam, go. So Sam then has his picture of the Nigerian World Cup team. He says, I swore I'd keep this until I made the team, but he gives it up into the fire. our favorite French player. Great moment here. This guy also kicking 1,000, dumps a vial of sand in. He says, "This is the first place that I ever." This is sand from St. Bart's.
Yep,
the first place. The first beach that I ever slept with a supermodel. And he starts to cry, and Cullen, great moment, takes him by the shoulders, and he goes, "Smile because it happened."
Yes.
It's just such a great moment. And I think Ted says something like, "Wow, opposite ends of the spectrum there," or something along those lines. Nate's gift to the fire is...
Oh, he gives these sunglasses away because he said a girl once said he looked like Clive Owen. Which is just
so great,
just fantastic. And like we've seen, we have Nate.
We've seen Smooth Nate.
Yeah, Nate's got that thing, so it's got to be rough to get rid of those sunglasses.
Yeah, and then Rebecca throws in today's tabloid. Mm-hmm. She says, "F the haters."
Which I think was a good moment because I think that like she doesn't really interact with the team, and when she says that, like the whole team kind of reacts and kind of laughs and stuff, and they're kind of seeing the human side of Rebecca.
Right. No, that's a good point. I would have gone right over that, but you're right. They all agree with her, and you can tell there's a bonding moment there. Mm-hmm. Then Higgins rolls in.
Oh,
he throws a cat collar in.
This got me, man.
His 20-year-old cat, and the cat's name, Tom, is
Cindy Clawford.
Cindy Clawford.
Oh,
Has there ever been a better cat name?
Oh, it's so fantastic.
When that name hit, did you die laughing?
Well,
I still laugh.
I saw that collar, and it's the callback to the last episode where he said he would be an emotional wreck when his 20-year-old cat dies. And now we're realizing just an episode later, his 20-year-old cat died, but then he throws the humor in and calling it Cindy Clawford. It was an emotional up and down roller coaster for me.
Cindy Clawford's so great. And then we have a player montage of the other players throwing stuff in. It's great. We end on Colin throwing the keys to his Lamborghini.
Which I feel Colin maybe took it a little bit too literal in terms of you got to put something in the fire that has value to you. And then Beard, of course, has the line, he's like, "How you getting home?"
Right. How are you getting home? And Colin realizes he's made a mistake. Then.
So before we get into Jamie's appearance, as he kind of comes into the room, would there be anything, because they're all getting rid of stuff that has a lot of value to them. Is there anything specific that you can think of that you would want to donate to this fire?
I mean, I don't believe in ghosts, so no, I wouldn't put anything of value
into this. But it's not as much about the ghosts, I think. Like, there's not all these
team exercise.
It's a team exercise, yeah. Just like donating the money and putting it in the little kitty box that Nate made. I think it's the same kind of thing. You're literally buying in. It says being with the team and giving up something of value.
I wish I had been given this question ahead of time. That way I wouldn't have to repeat it in order to stall while I think of an answer. But if I was given time, I would probably say... I don't know. I don't have a good answer.
You could cut all this out if it's not a good one. I don't necessarily have a good one either, but I thought it was interesting just because they all came with something like pretty powerful. Like you see some of the stuff that gets put in they don't say anything because they're just ancillary characters. Like a goalie puts in like goalie gloves or whatever. So it's probably like his first when he first started playing or something like that. So I just thought it was interesting all the different backstories you can kind of create with these.
Right.
And what they did put in there was it's not the Lamborghini keys. It was a lot of it was very heartfelt stuff.
Yeah, I'd probably put like my social security card or my birth certificate, something like that in there.
Get off the grid?
Yeah, just set that on fire. So then Jamie appears. He's got a pair of cleats. They are not baby cleats. They're full-grown man cleats. But he explains to us what they represent is that his mom got him into football. His parents had split. He uses the term "when I was a wee sexy baby," which is just a great line.
I kind of like when I heard that I went to like the Austin Powers. Didn't Fat Bastard say that at one point?
Yeah, wee sexy baby.
Sexy baby.
He said that's Scottish. Yeah. So he said he started playing because he wanted to make his mother proud, wanted to be a good lad. And then he got so good that his dad, who apparently was kind of an absentee father, started to pay attention. And so his dad would get on him if he didn't score a goal, if he wasn't like the toughest guy on the field. And so Jamie felt like he had to kind of harden himself and be the best player, the guy that scored the goals in order to impress his dad, or at least not allow his dad to call him soft.
Yeah.
And so he then has this real, moment. I hope it's real. It seems genuine.
Yeah.
Where he makes the comment that, he sometimes forgets that he should play to make his mother proud.
Mm-hmm.
And if she would be proud with how he has been playing. And so, interesting moment of him reflecting. And I do think it's genuine. I think it's a genuine moment for him.
Yeah, I do. And I think it's emotionally resonating and it hits. But again, I think this character has just done so much before this that, to me, this doesn't make up for anything that he's done before. And it is interesting. Had they have maybe presented this a little bit sooner and gave him a little bit of hubris, this could have hit harder. But to me, it was a heartwarming story, but didn't make me feel emotional at all.
Sure. Okay. Now, do you think he returned because of what Keeley said to him? I guess, what do you think the driving force, or he just didn't want to be...
Oh, it's 100% what Keeley said. Yeah, I think Keeley, finally... Because as we've seen, Jamie doesn't seemingly care about nearly anybody's opinion but his own.
Right.
But I do think there's clearly a relationship and mutual respect with him and Keeley. And when Keeley kind of opened his eyes, if you will, saying, like, these people are not out to get you. They're not your father, more or less.
Right.
They're not trying to call you soft or anything. They're just trying to help you be a better soccer player. In Ted's case, help you be a better man.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's definitely got to be the catalyst for why he shows up.
Sure. Well, I enjoyed it. It's nice to see a little bit more into Jamie's life. I don't think those things excuse behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can kind of inform it, but I don't think it excuses behavior. It's like when someone who's like 70 is like, oh, when I was a kid, this is happened, and this is why I'm terrible now. And you're like, there's a lot of distance between. You could have gotten better.
Yeah.
Anyways, Ted then goes to light the fire pot. This is a great moment.
This was great because I was watching this with my wife, and as we're watching it, and he's like, he shakes the matches in his hand or whatever, the matchbox.
Yeah.
I'm literally saying, you should not be lighting this inside. Like, what are they doing? They're going to burn down this this training room or whatever. But then, of course, Beer comes in, like, right as he lights it, he's getting ready to, like, make the dramatic, metaphorical, moment.
Sure.
And Beer's like, whoa, maybe we should do this part outside.
He says, the way Beer delivers lines, he's like, maybe we should do this outside. Like,
Yeah.
he kind of rush yells.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same when he's like, Cape Fear. He does that, like...
This is why I love Beard. Like, he's such a great character, and the way they do the little, like, quips, the actor just delivers it so brilliantly.
Yeah, he does a great job. So then we're outside on the pitch, very well shot. Ted, the opening ceremonies of burning all the stuff. Higgins says the eagle has landed to him. We don't know what that means. And then says... And then Ted goes into great spirits. We need a sign that you've essentially forgiven us. And who appears healthy and running?
Danny Rojas, Danny Rojas.
Danny Rojas arrives healthy, and he's got a bottle of mezcal.
Mezcal. Have you ever had mezcal?
I have not.
We should have had mezcal for this.
It's
but podcasting and booze don't mix.
Sure, tequila adjacent, I believe.
Yeah.
And so... Rojas is like, oh, I brought this bottle. I was going to throw it in the fire. He says something funny, like I was going to throw it in the demon fire or something like that. And Jamie's like, whoa. And Jamie calls him Rogas. Like, he doesn't do Rojas. He calls him Rogas. He says it wrong. He's like, whoa there. He's like, don't throw that. We should all share it. And Roy, in a rare moment, agrees with Jamie and says, ghosts prefer empty bottles that we've all drunk. Which is great. So they start passing around the bottle. We then find out that Ted knew that Danny was healthy before the ceremony. I don't think anyone's buying that the ceremony fixed Danny Rojas, but the timing of it is all very well.
Yeah, it's just fun.
And we see this moment with Rebecca, Higgins, and Ted, where Higgins was in on it, Rebecca was not. And so we're seeing this kind of bond form. Obviously, it's been forming between Higgins and Ted, and Rebecca is bothered by it because she can see the team is forming.
Yeah, that look, because she's out there kind of enjoying the moment with the team and kind of says, like, I think at one point literally says, like, this is the team is clearly bonding. And I think when when she realized that Higgins was in on this with Ted, she gives that just like daggers look to Higgins kind of a thing, which I don't think I caught in the first viewing, but when I saw it again, like, yeah, she's absolutely like realizing, like, crap, I'm alone now in trying to destroy this team, because at this point everybody else is on board with what's going on.
Right. I don't really understand her motivation. Like, Ted has been nothing but a positive force, but from a show like point of view, I understand why
you still kind of need a villain, if you will. But I think she still has her motivations of trying to destroy the club for, Rupert or whatever.
Right.
But you would imagine what's been going on thus far, her motivations would have twisted and changed.
Sure.
But we'll see. There's still plenty of time left.
That's true. So then they do the Richmond Till We Die chant, which was fun. Chanting is a big part of soccer, Tom. Why don't you tell us about your favorite chants and why chanting in a group at people is something you've been doing for a long time?
Keep the blue flag flying high is one of my favorite chants. That's Chelsea's chant.
Okay.
I won't regale you with it. What they do here with the AFC Richmond Till You Die, is a very common chant. A lot of teams will just more or less put in their own name and then do that till we die. Sure I am, I here I am. This is Richmond till we die.
Got it.
That's a pretty kind of common one, but it was kind of fun to see them kind of doing it. But a lot of the clubs around England and in the Premier League, all their fans will have different ones. Another really big famous one is from West Ham United. They do a song called Bubbles. So the whole kind of crowd, and they literally have bubble machines that play in the entire thing. It literally takes you back to childhood. But like when their players are coming on the pitch, there's just bubbles flying everywhere, and the fans are doing the big chant, kind of clapping their hands overhead.
Oh, cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to go to a football game where they chant stuff. That sounds like a good time.
I feel like we should do that in the States. Like it'd be fun to do that for like in a football, not American football game or.
Sure, more singing in groups. That's what church is for, Tom. More chanting in groups. That's what church is for. So then Ted is super happy. We've cut from that night. We're like next day. Ted's super happy, walking through the locker room, giving high fives. Says, "Good morning."
Said, "Good morning, Honey Bunch." Again, that's the callback to
the silly nicknames, the cute nicknames, right?
Yep.
And then Beard gives them this look. We don't hear the conversation, but we find out that Rebecca has sent Jamie back to Manchester City. Manchester City and Manchester United, different clubs, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Manchester United had always been there. They still are one of the most valuable clubs in all of sports, just from a merchandising and popularity standpoint. Manchester City was bought by these bajillionaires like probably 5 to 10 years ago.
Okay.
And because they weren't necessarily a top tier team, but over the past 5 to 10 years, they've become an absolute powerhouse.
Got it. Okay. Ted is very upset. He rushes into Rebecca's office. He gets mad at her. This is, once again, Ted kind of fraying. We see he angrily gives her morning biscuits.
This is technically biscuits with the boss.
Right.
This is the worst biscuits with the boss we've seen thus far.
Right. And then he says something like, "I hope you hate them. I hope they're terrible."
But then he screams and he finally kind of lets this out. He reveals like this is the best batch I've ever made, which is finally it's like I finally cracked the recipe.
Right.
So now, and I don't know, there's kind of a look from Rebecca. I don't know if she picked up on that Ted has been the one making them this whole time. Maybe we'll see in the next episode if there's more to that. But I just love I hope you hate them. But I know you won't. I love it.
I finally cracked the recipe. I love when he shouts that. And he leaves, and then he's back in the office, and
he's down.
They're down. But Danny Rojas coming in here, just a great moment. Leans in. He says, "Coach, football is life." Mm-hmm. He's trying to cheer Ted up. And then Jamie's jersey is sadly taken down. The song that plays... Once again, love what Bill Lawrence and the team do with music in these episodes. The song that plays is a song called Harmony Hall by a band called Vampire Weekend. I don't really know these guys' work. I've heard of them before. Lovely song. I looked it up on YouTube, so one of the lyrics to the song and the chorus is, "I don't want to live like this, but I don't want to die."
Yeah.
And someone in the comments section was like, "COVID 2020. I don't want to live like this, but I don't want to die." This is the song for you, which I thought was great. But enjoyed this episode. I love Danny Rojas. Danny Rojas is Ted Lasso's positive. Danny Rojas is positive. Danny Rojas is great footballer, also great human, or just a super positive influence. So I enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed finding out a little bit about all the players. I do think it's interesting the way they did this episode, where it's Jamie made the turn, Jamie's on the team, and then gut punch, he's gone.
Yep. Yeah, I do like the introduction of Rojas. I think he's going to be a very fun, dynamic character, because I think there was something, not necessarily missing, but I think there was, with Jamie, to me, even if he would have turned like he was going to in this episode, I wouldn't have liked it. I wouldn't have wanted to see him now play and have all this dynamic because I don't forget all the other horrible stuff he's done beforehand.
Sure.
So I love the character. He was a very funny character. I love the way he played off of Roy. Like you said, you've seen the whole series or this season. I have only seen, up to episode 6 here. It'll be interesting if they do any callbacks or bring him back in the future. Maybe it'd be fun if, next time Richmond or AFC Richmond plays Manchester City, maybe they'll hit each other on the pitch. I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens next.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited for you. I already know what happens, and it only gets better from here. So, for those of you joining us, we appreciate you spending some time with us. If you have questions or would like to ask us anything, that's also called a question.
Yeah.
You can email us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
And then if you have other people that like Ted Lasso and like podcasts, by all means, recommend us.
Yeah, smash that subscribe button. Give us some 5 stars on all those big apps and stuff to get us more viewers. We want to continue this. We're having a lot of fun.
We're here for us, though. So, but we enjoy you all being here along for the ride.
This goal is going to be for you. Well, it's going to be more for me. All right, it's going to be for us.
It's going to be for us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jamie Tart. Oh, and so next week we will be talking about episode 7 of season 1. And that episode is called
Rojas Rumble. I hope.
Rojas Rumble. That's good. I like that. That's much better than last week's. No. The week before.
Oh, I had nothing the week before.
Oh, yeah.
Bye, everybody.
All right, bye, everybody.
Pleasure.
Thanks.